Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first show of Before the Fight. As always, I'm joined by Gareth Williams. G, how are you?
Mate, I'm tremendous. Looking forward to the show.
And shotgun Shannon O'Connell. Shannon, you got a fight coming up. How are you feeling?
I feel fantastic. Can't wait.
We've got Glenn Rushton on the show, and obviously he's the head trainer for Jeff Horn. There's a big fight coming on between Jeff Horn and Tim Tszyu. We're going to be breaking down the show today and the undercard. Glenn, thanks for joining us.
Very welcome, Rob. It's great to be here and looking forward very much to this amazing fight.
Now, a big fight, huge. You fly out tomorrow, heading to Townsville. How are the numbers going with, we heard there was a 16,000 capacity?
Yeah, 16,000 capacity due to the COVID restrictions. As most of the tickets are gone. There's only, I think there's less than 2,000 left, and they're more the cheaper $29 seats, and I think there's a few 69s there. So,
how's his camp been?
It's been excellent. I've been really happy with this camp. He's been injury-free, which is always good because in every prep, everyone sort of thinks that everything goes perfect in a prep. But over the period of that prep, there's little injuries and things. Sometimes there's more serious injuries. There's colds and flus to contend with. And, Gareth and Shannon know this. It's one of those things that it's never perfect, but this camp has been about as good as any. We come from a nice base during COVID. He kept training this time. Come in at a better base. I've been able to ramp him up just nice and steadily, and I'm very happy with him. He's just a ball of muscle. He looks to me like a pit bull, and he's put on 4 kilos of lean muscle mass since Pacquiao, so that's a serious light middleweight. He's not an overweight welterweight anymore. So
he's taking the fight very seriously. We had the pleasure of being at a private training session and getting a little bit of footage of him. He's looking amazing. Now, just before we get into that, touching on how camps can be completely different, there are a couple of disruptions. I think G's got a question for you about that.
Yeah, g'day, Glenn. Obviously, we've known each other for quite a while, and I know how headstrong both you and Jeff are. So I didn't buy into the social media aspect of it upsetting your camp one little bit, but it did blow up a little bit. What I'm talking about is the issue with Dundee Kim, how he's jumped camps, apparently been in the zoo camp, trying to upset obviously what you guys are doing. Can you give us a bit of insight into how that went?
Yeah, I really don't know why that happened. Dundee originally came to Jeff as a sponsor, so he saw Jeff after Jeff had 7 professional fights, had beaten the likes of Nafal Ben Robert, Samuel Columban in 78 seconds. He was an Olympian, a quarter finalist. He was a great boxer, and I think it was actually after the Mundine spar where it had welcome to Brisbane man whack, and when Jeff sparred Anthony Mundine up here. So, he saw an opportunity there to obviously sponsor Jeff, and because he ran a weight loss sort of gym there, it was good to get, punters into the gym.
Just going about the actual episode that happened, if people didn't hear about it, was a sparring session. Dundee was at Dundee's place. Was it Joel and Tim?
Joel and Tim were sparring, and then he was doing pads, Dundee, I believe, from what I saw of the footage, with Tim, and is trying to teach him what Jeff does and how to combat that.
In saying that, reading between the lines, I'm thinking that it was all about another ad on TV.
Exactly. I just saw it as a bit of a publicity sort of thing, and just good for the gym, And
So, who is walking out first? Who's entering the ring first? I understand there was a bit of controversy about it, but I didn't realise myself that it was for Tim's titles. So I guess that does give Tim the right to come out second. But what happened with that? Before I realised it was for Tim's titles, I personally thought Jeff earns the right to be the star.
Yeah, I don't really care who walks out second as long as it's Jeff Horn. The way I look at it is like this. When Tim Tszyu fought Joel Camilleri was the Australian champion at the time, defending his Australian title, and who do you think walked out second in that fight? Tim Tszyu did. Okay, so it's more than just the title. When we fought Terence Crawford, there was a bit of a hoo-ha of this over in Vegas. And even on the posters it had Crawford Horn. We go, hang on, it should be Horn Crawford. So it would only be respectful and fair that, of course, Jeff walks out second.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm huge on respect, and I actually believe there's not enough being shown at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Now, speaking of unofficial titles, this fight, much like the Zarafa fight, has been pegged as the Who is sitting at the top of the ladder when it comes to Australian boxing. That, I think, is the unofficial title, and that's what we're all really talking about. But before we go getting into any more than that, I'm going to let G break down the styles and talk to us about Tim Tszyu.
Mate, just thinking about the fight, I've known Tim Tszyu for a long time. Maybe he was 12 years old, coming up to Queensland boxing and Glenn would remember these days as well when Tim used to come up with his brother Nikita as well. They were all very stylish boxers. Always had a little bit of a touch about Costa about them. In saying that, Tim hasn't had the 200 or 300 fights that Costa had as an amateur. Didn't go to the same heights. He hasn't won a world title, and he hasn't boxed the same quality of opponent that Jeff has. He does some very good things though. He sits on his back leg well, uses his front hand, gauges his distance very well. He's a very nice, tidy boxer. He can crack a little bit as well. On the other hand, I just don't think he's fought the opponent that Jeff has. And I think that's fair to say with Terence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao for starters, only mentioning two. I like Tim's style. I think he'll be there in the future. But personally, I think if Jeff turns up on the night with the same mindset that he did against Manny Pacquiao, I think Jeff makes it too hard a night for Tim. I still do believe that Tim will get there in a few more years, though. It's a bit early for him.
Thoughts on that, Glenn?
Yeah, I think Gareth has summed that up really, really well, actually, because again, like Gareth, I obviously have seen Tim come up through the amateurs. I think the only time he fought for a national title in the men's division and he met Daniel Lewis, I believe, in the final, and he lost to Daniel Lewis.
Shannon, break down Jeff Horn's style for us.
Look, one thing that I can say about Tim, he's got what everyone loved about Costa, and that's his composure. What we know about Jeff is he can take that away. Jeff's style, Jeff can take this, as soon as Jeff takes that composure away from Tim, what's Tim got? And I believe that, Tim has been upset in rounds here and there by people with that style, but they don't have the will that Jeff's got. Jeff's just got too much will. If he wants it on the night, he won't stop until he's got it. And we've seen that before.
G?
Can I just add on to that? Everybody, and we've been over many times for sparring, as of a lot of people, we're all good friends. Everybody that's ever been in the ring, whether it's sparring, a fight as an amateur, Jeff's first fight or his last fight, every single person gets out of the ring and goes, oh my God, I didn't think he'd be like that. Everyone knows he's strong. I remember Kerry Hope when we come over. Kerry was a European a middleweight champion. He sparred Jeff. He said he's a very, very strong welterweight at the time. He said, mate, he's very good. And Kerry had been in with the best in the world at that time. So, mate, I think people underestimate the things that Jeff does really well as well sometimes. Yes, he might even look awkward sometimes, but it's a real benefit to Jeff, the fact that he's not a traditional style boxer as such, you know?
Well, we've spoken about Tim staying in his frame, using his jab well, edging in with his foot. Shannon, Jeff's the opposite.
Jeff being Jeff upsets any boxer. Jeff's just got that, he's just got his own style that I guess, like Gareth said, people don't realise what they're in for until they get out the ring and they're like, what was that? And Jeff does that and he'll upset anyone.
It's got to be a combination of a lot of things through the fight camp. But when we had the cameras there and we were watching him on, we've all seen fighters on the heavy bag. We watched Jeff do 10 rounds, knockout power in both hands, Glenn.
Absolutely, and hitting harder all the time. He's starting to loosen up more, and they're loose, they're hard, they're heavy, they're just punches you don't want to get hit with, and he can land them. That's the key. As I say, it's not how hard you can throw them, it's how hard you can land them that matters. And Jeff can land them hard. There's no doubt about that. He's got that timing that he can land punches really hard and consistently, and he's incredibly tough. Everyone knows Jeff has got a great chin.
Glenn, how important is it now to get these Australian versus Australian fights?
As we know, COVID-19 has changed the landscape. So that's where we're in this position where often we can't always fight the fights we want to fight, so we're better off to take other fights in the meantime. But as far as we're concerned, our plan is to get through this fight and then look for another world title. I would still dearly love to see Jeff win world titles in possibly 3 divisions before he retires. So, but we've got a fight to get through first, and we can't be sidetracked.
Just tying up on this subject, Shannon, with women in boxing and the exposure, does this start to bring, is the follow-on effect going to be very beneficial for the females in the sport?
Oh, well, I hope so. There's a lot of girls around. I mean, I'm obviously a lot more experienced than a lot of the girls that are around at the moment, but there are a lot of girls around that can be fighting each other that aren't, that should be. Also, I guess I'm getting looked at now like a stepping stone, so I'm ready for any of them. Like, having the experience that I've got, I'm not comfortable with sitting there and going, yeah, I'll fight you and I'll fight you. But if they want to fight me, I'm ready. I'll fight any of them. So I hope that Aussies do start fighting Aussies. There's girls out there that should be fighting each other. As a female, you've got to give away weight, you've got to give away experience, otherwise you don't fight.
Last thoughts,
and fighters
team,
fight.
before we send this very busy man on his way for a great fight?
Last thoughts. I'm going to go on the fight. I believe Jeff wins it because I believe he's got his hunger back. In saying that, Tim Tszyu is a potential world champion in the future too.
Shannon?
Well, now I'm probably going to get frowned upon for saying this, but every single time I've gone against Jeff and thought that he wasn't going to win, he's won. So I'm going to say Tim because I want Jeff to win.
Reverse psychology.
Look, I think boxing wins on the day, especially with what's going on in 2020. I think the style is going to be a great fight. I can't take anything away from either guys. I think it's going to be an amazing fight. I think the true champion will emerge on the day. And I think from there it's going to light a path for a bright boxing future in Australia. Glenn, we wish you all the best. Thank you for being on the show, mate. And hopefully we'll see you in Townsville.
Pleasure to be here, Rob, and all the best with the show for the future.
Thank you, sir.
It's a great thing.
I'm Steve Diller and you're watching Before the Fight.
I'm Jeff Horn and you're watching Before the Fight.
By Phil Austin, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure, thank you very much for asking me.
Now, Phil, how do you see the state of Australian boxing at the moment from the third man's point of view?
They're exciting times. I mean, if you put COVID aside, if you look at the local matchups that we've had and some of the boxers that are coming through and the re-emergence of some of our former stars who had some time out, I think the future of Australian boxing is incredibly, incredibly bright.
Now, G, I'm going to let you start off with your first question or statement to Phil. Don't do it.
My first question for Phil, I'm going to go there, Phil. Mate,
Knew you would.
Fox Sports blew up one night when you took a tumble in a Blake Caparello fight. What was the go there? Tell us your side. Everyone else will probably call bullshit, but I want to hear your side.
Well, the only reason they'd call bullshit is because I've got a certain reputation. But look, that aside, it was one of those things. It was probably, I wouldn't call it an interesting fight. It was intriguing there, and it was one of those situations where anyone that's ever seen Blake Caparello in action knows that Blake doesn't move the way boxers should move.
And what happened?
So you're blaming Blake for you
Absolutely,
falling over,
absolutely.
doing a backward roll on Fox Sports.
Oh, really? Did they catch the good side of you?
Oh, absolutely. There, no, as you said, that it did go nuts, as did my Facebook.
Yeah.
What happened was he jumped back and across and he stood on my foot as I was moving in a certain direction. So it's like, I'm going here. Now either I can look really, really bad going, or I can look not so bad going and just go with it because I'm on my way. And that was it. And I think I got the biggest cheer of the night.
Yeah, nicely done. Now, you've refereed for many years. You've refereed some great fights. What's the most entertaining fight or fighter that you've refereed for that you can think of?
Oh my God,
Who comes to mind?
there's so many great fighters that I've been involved with.
Shannon's putting that
Actually, one of the most entertaining to referee, and I'm not saying this because she's sitting on my right, clearing
Gareth
her
Williams.
throat.
Yeah.
Oh, has anyone ever seen Gareth in the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going. I think we've got to
I
start
throw a
film.
fight in there too.
He starts moving. But Shannon O'Connell, man, woman or child, her fights have always been thoroughly entertaining. She could probably jab a lot, but I don't think she likes to do that.
Big rap.
But yeah, she comes to fight, she gets into the trenches and she absolutely entertains absolutely everybody.
How important is it, especially when decisions can go either way, how important is it to have the right referee in the ring?
Oh, probably. So when I fought in Argentina, I was fighting the fighter and the referee and the judges and the crowd. But yeah, no, having a good ref is so important because there's certain things that they'll let you get away with. They won't let you get away with. Like, it's pro boxing. Calling break every 5 seconds, that's not pro boxing. Like it's just having a bad ref that favours a fighter can upset a fight.
Look, a lot of people will blame refs and judges when it comes to their fight. We were talking earlier about people, looking in the mirror and taking it on the chin and owning it. This is something that gets aimed at referees a lot.
Yep.
What do referees have to stick to make sure that they're, just doing the right job on the night every time?
Quite simply, I think Shannon touched on a very important point. She said it's pro fighting, it's pro boxing. There's a lot of different elements that come into this. The important thing is you do have to know the rules backwards. The most important thing also is the fact that there's no personalities inside a boxing ring. And this is also very, very important, and I can't stress the importance on anyone that's ever thinking about becoming a referee or a judge, is that every fight is a world title fight. Whether it's a 4-round novice or right up to actual world title fights, treat every fight as a world title fight, because it is that important to those two people inside the ring. It could define which way their careers go.
We were messaging each other this morning, and you said the exact same thing to me, Shannon.
Yeah, as a fighter.
Word for word, you texted that to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, the quality of referees in Australia, gee, we're pretty good. We're right up there.
Yeah, look, obviously I've had Phil many times with my own fighters as well, and obviously observed him on Fox Sports when he falls over.
We had him for Hooper
those sort of things.
We had him for Hooper Solomov.
That's right, yeah. So, and I think once you've been in the game long enough, you sort of, which referee you've got, it is good to have a good referee, but everyone's got their own little twist, haven't they, Phil? Like some referees will call break a lot more than others, but you've got to, you've got to hone in on that and work that in your favour,
Yeah, good call.
How good is it to look? We all understand that the fighters have been looking for fights.
Yep.
And we understand that Australian boxing has been looking for fights as well during this COVID period. How important is it for a referee to stay relevant and get on a show like this?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question, isn't it? It's very unusual for me to be lost for words. Shannon.
We spoke about this earlier.
Look, I think it is important. I think absolutely it's important. Like us or hate us, and plenty hate us. We do play a part in this sport. As you referee, as to any other part of the sport, is so completely different. And that's what a lot of people don't get. I don't know why he did that. I don't know why he did that. The reason they don't know is they don't know the rules. They don't know why we do what it is that we do.
So, what got you into it originally?
I'm an idiot. No, look, it's one of those.
That's it. That's the answer.
That's it. We in a nutshell. Yeah. No, I was boxing as an amateur in New Zealand at the time, and I started playing cricket, and I got hit in the eye with a cricket ball, fractured my cheekbone and my eye socket. So that ended that.
Geez, you were lucky not to lose your sight.
Oh, look, I was lucky because I was crap as a boxer, so it did me a favour. So I thought, look, I want to stay involved. I love the sport. I've been, you come from the East End of London, it's pretty much genetic. And it was one of those things where I become a referee. And, we're talking about the amateurs in New Zealand, and it was nice because people would clap you and stuff like that, and nobody really hated you. And it wasn't until you joined the pros that you realise that sometimes people will hate you. But look, most people that hate me for the wrong reasons, and I take it as a compliment. Oh, you should have let that go.
It's an opinion, isn't it, rather than hatred?
Okay,
I think,
so I let that go. So do you want to speak to his wife and his kids or her husband and, and say it justified to them why I let that fight go on?
Now, geez, he's jabbed at you a couple of times. He's had a bit of fun with you.
And he's not going to stop. So.
We're actually going to have a bit of fun with G.
Oh, excellent.
We were talking to his good friend Chrissy McCullen. Now, we've got a little bit of footage here. I'm not sure if everyone's up to speed with it, but let's just have a quick look at the footage and let's break this down.
Oh, this will be my pleasure.
Yeah, one thing they don't have, good story on Gareth that they don't know, he was part of Manpower back in the day. He is a dancer, and that's a true story. That's not even a lie.
Shannon, did you know this?
I did not know this. I knew he like gymnastics and all that. I did not know Manpower. Oh
Chris
my God.
McCullen is full of shit. Mate, he said that on Fox Sports one night when Hooper knocked out Joel Casey on Jamie Myers' show. He goes, oh, look at Williams, jumps in the ring, the former Manpower male. I had no idea. I'm in the car on the way home. I'm getting all these phone calls from my mates. Did you dance in Manpower? I'm going, what a wanker.
So did you?
No, I didn't, mate. I did do it. I was known to do the odd dance, but I was never paid for it, put it that way.
to be fair, I can back him up on this because I've seen him move in the corner, and there's no way he was a member of Manpower or anything like that, anything to do with dancing.
But look, after that photo that your mate Horry put up, I thought there was a connection there.
Mate, it could have happened, but it just didn't. No way.
Now, speaking earlier, we were talking about the whole COVID incident and how important is it right now for Australians to be fighting Australians?
Oh, I mean, look, it's a loaded question. I think we all know the answer to it. It's vital that Australians are fighting Australians at the moment, because otherwise you're not going to be fighting at all, are you? Really, at the end of the day. But the other thing is, Australians should be fighting Australians. If you want, in my opinion, if you want to be considered number one in your division, clean up your backyard.
But Shannon, speaking on that, it's going to raise the level of skill for the Australian fighter, having to fight their own people. There's no running, there's no ducking. It's making us a better country as fighters, and it's going to make them better fighters. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. If there's fighters here to fight them. The only I've taken any opportunity that I have overseas, but and yes, I have fought Thais and I've fought Indonesians because there's no one else to fight, and I just want to fight.
You had to fight them because there was nobody else to fight.
Yeah, I just want to fight.
I'm Kylie Fulmer, and you're watching Before the Fight.
I'm Joel Kamiko Camilleri, and you're watching Before the Fight.
This fight card, for a majority, is a tale of two very different tapes. It's young up-and-comers coming against serious, seasoned, experienced fighters. It's a tale of usually one guy's done 140-odd rounds and the other guy's done about 15 rounds. Now, coming into that, we have Isaac Hardman, Jamie Weech.
Jamie Weech, a little bit of a gossip here. I do know that Jamie Weech used to fight as unsanctioned boxing in England. That's how he got into boxing. And then he moved to Perth, I believe. He's at Justin Lacey's gym, very good coach. If I look at his record, he's had some really good wins against Wade Ryan, which is a very good winner, who obviously fought Tim Tszyu. Also, Yao Yi Ma. Yao Yi was a very good boy a few years ago. I don't think he's around the game much anymore.
He went on the decline pretty quickly.
He did, but at that time he was a 14-2 record, and that was a very good win by Jamie Weech. Obviously, he lost to Dennis Hogan. Mate, he's the experienced one. I take my hat off to Hardman for taking this fight because the step up in experience. Look, Hardman's a good puncher, good banger. I think he's from Caboolture, actually, a Queenslander. Mate, I think it's an interesting fight. Will experience beat the young up-and-coming guy that's got a bit of mongrel in him? And he does. He's a bit of a dog fighter, he's Hardman. But, Jamie Weech might have a little bit too much experience. I'm unsure.
Going to be a great one. Another great one. Yep. Liam Wilson, Jackson Woods. Liam Wilson, he beat Brent Rice, and I thought that was a big step up for him to take on that kind of opponent. How do you think he's going to go? They both fought in 2020 this year, so that in February. So how's this fight go down?
So Jackson Woods, known him for a few years, very, very tough fighter. I see Liam Wilson being a little bit too big for him though, but Jackson Woods you watch this kid fight. He'll stand there, he'll stand toe-to-toe. Their gym, I think it's called La Trobe in Tasmania. They stand toe-to-toe with bigger kids. Anybody that walks in the gym, their ring might as well be 3 foot long, 3 foot wide. They stand toe-to-toe. Liam's going to have a real fight. I think Liam's size will be a bit too much. What do you think, Shannon?
Yeah, honestly, Liam's drive and his will and his attitude, I don't think can be beaten by an Australian fighter. Jackson Wood is a good test, but I mean, everyone thought that Brent Rice was going to be a huge test as well, and Liam Wilson didn't look fazed by him one bit. I really believe Liam Wilson is going places. He's so focused.
Convincing knockout on the Jade Mitchell undercard.
Yeah, that was amazing.
How do you think the fight's going to go?
I think these two guys have summed it up perfectly. It is an absolutely intriguing matchup once again, and Liam Wilson really, like, every test that has been put in front of him. And you talked about Brent Rice, because I'd refereed Brent a couple of times previously and thought, okay, this is an interesting test. And as you said,
Yeah, it was like his second fight, Liam's, I think.
yeah, second or third fight. And I refereed his first fight, and it was over very quickly. He broke
Brett's
the
no slouch.
No.
Oh, absolutely. That kid can box.
He can box.
He can really, really box.
Now we move right along. Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, Kylie Fulmer.
Go shotgun.
I've never heard of O'Connell.
Yeah. She's a good up and comer.
yeah. Look, I've known Shannon for a long time. To be honest, I don't know a lot about Kylie. I know she's been over in the USA. I think she trained under a great trainer, Justin Fortune. I believe she was at Fortune's gym.
Yep. Great gym too.
Very well schooled. Obviously, good on her for putting her hand up for this fight. Shannon's been champion of the world.
146 rounds versus 15 rounds.
What is this fight, Shannon? 8, 10?
8.
8 rounds Australian title?
Australian title, yep.
Okay. So, look, I suppose it's not like a 10 or 12 rounder, which you would definitely favour Shannon. And I'm still going with Shannon as far as my pick.
If you have a look at her record, like she's been fighting in Mexico, so she's been fighting tough opponents and stuff like that. And I think Shannon's going to have her hands full. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight, but Shannon doesn't like easy fights. That's not the way she'd have the sport.
But I just don't think she's had the opportunity to fight the easy fights as much as you see in the male division.
Look, it's one of those things, one of the beauties of women boxing has been the fact that these girls, for a majority of it, before somebody jumps in, have been fighting each other. So, you know, to me, you see a female boxer with some losses on her records. That just means she's been fighting. It means absolutely nothing. But, you know, because people could look at the undefeated record and go, well, you know, she's fighting Shannon, who's a former world champion. But Shannon's far from washed up.
Oh, come on.
Far from washed up.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people are saying, like, oh, yeah, she's come back from retired. Guys, I retired because I was pregnant. I did not retire because I was done. I did not retire because I had brain injuries or any kind of illness, or I retired because I was pregnant. I had my baby and I fought when he was 12 weeks old after having a cesarean.
You're in a place now, you're a lot more comfortable, you're a happier fighter. Does that make you more dangerous?
Absolutely. Like, so, I mean, I started my amateur career with Terry Fox, very hard man. He instilled hardness in me. I moved to Chris McCullen, very skilled fighter, but he made me a very skilled amateur. I moved from Chris to Phil Holliday, work rate. He put work ethic into me. I thought that I'd trained hard until I met Phil Holliday. Now, then Rob DeLang, same thing. He slowed me down a bit. He put some power into me. Moving to Stephen Luke, I've just got this amazing bond with them. They've taught me pro boxing.
You know, the show is non-biased and we do have to talk about both sides of it. Kylie Fulmer, I think she's doing a great job by stepping up. You know, 7 fights, 15 odd rounds, you know, 85% knockout they've given her because she does finish fights, going up against what arguably is the queen of Australian boxing. Boxing wins on the day, G.
Mate, it's a big fight. There's a lot of great women fighters coming through, especially through this year. Shannon, to me, was a leader as far as the amateurs turning professional, as far as the girls, because before we had other professional fighters, but none had done the yards that Shannon had done through the amateur system and then turned pro like the traditional way.
She pioneered that.
She did. That's what I mean. Yeah, she was a leader in that. She was a pioneer.
Someone should put her on a show as a host.
Now
you wouldn't shut her up.
Now you've got other kids coming through that have got to a good amateur level, then they're turning professional. Yep. Dee Dee Hobbs. We've got a girl at the gym, Taylor Robertson, as well. She's sparring. She's doing a lot of work with Shannon as well.
Going a long
Great.
way.
Yeah, she's a good kid. And there's so many as well. And even you look overseas, you look at Katie Taylor. What a superstar! A superstar. She was on more money boxing as an amateur in Ireland than the men's team, pretty much.
Yep.
She had that many sponsors and everything on board. Now she's an absolute global star. And
Louise Bang Bang Horton.
Yeah. You know.
Now, moving right along, we go to Adam Copeland, Joel Camilleri. Again, another one, 24 rounds versus 143 rounds.
Joel Camilleri is a very experienced fighter. Obviously fought Tim Tszyu again. There's actually a few guys that have fought Tim on this show. But Adam Copeland's a good kid. Good pedigree from the amateurs, and I don't believe Joel had an amateur background. I don't know if I'm right, but I don't think he had much. I think he learned his way as a professional. Let's see, is this a 6-round fight or
8.
8-round fight?
This is 8 rounds again.
This is an 8-round fight. So
Same
look,
as the Hardman-Weech fight, that got pushed from 6 to 8 as well.
you know,
Oh, it has? Okay. Yeah.
right. And I think the rounds, when you're talking 6 fights or like, you know, a lot of guys are stepping up 6 rounds to 6 rounds or to 10 rounds, I think the scheduling of the fight will play a lot in these fights. When it's an 8-rounder, I'll probably go towards Camilleri because I don't think Copland's fought too many long fights.
How many did you do with Tapia?
I'm not sure.
That was 8 rounds.
It might have been
And
an
that's a big
8-rounder.
fight.
Saying
Yeah.
that, Joel's done more.
Yeah, 100%.
Now,
And on the big stage too.
apart from that, he's had a great camp. He's been sparring some of the best in the area. He's been moving in and out with Tszyu. He's been moving in and out with Hogan.
Yep.
You know, guys like that. You're in the same camp as Adam Copland, Shannon.
Yeah, look, Adam's looking great. I've always liked to watch Adam as a boxer.
Great kid.
He's a nice, skilled boxer. I think the only way Camilleri beats him is by upsetting his skill. Same sort of style with Jeff and Tim. I agree. I think like Adam's the better boxer. Adam's the more skilled boxer. Adam's the amateur style nice boxer.
There you go.
And he's had a hard when he fought Tapia, everyone wrote him off. He got dropped,
Huge
I think, in
fight.
the first round, and he came back and he fought strong and he won some of those later rounds. So that shows that he's got heart.
And it's a strong division, Phil. You know, we've got Camilleri in there, you've got Hardman in there, you've got Copland in there, you know, Weech. Strong division.
It's a very strong division. And getting back on, like, touching base on Copland, because it's been a afternoon that will go down in history because I've spent most of the day agreeing with Shannon and we don't normally do that.
How good is that?
Crazy. But the first time I actually saw Adam box as a pro, because before that I just knew him as the cheeky bastard. He used to give me shit at the back of the dressing room.
Yeah, because he was in Jeff's corner all earlier along before
Yeah,
he fought
that's
professional,
right.
wasn't he? Yeah.
And then he fought in the Fortitude Valley, and because you were there that night watching, and I was just sitting there watching it, and I'm just going, holy crap, this kid is really, really skillful. But
Either way, it's going to be an amazing card. It's an amazing show. It's great for Australian boxing.
Yep.
Right across the board. There's some great up-and-coming fighters coming in there. There's a lot of fights underneath that are going to be very entertaining as well. It's great for refereeing. It's great for boxing. Phil, thank you for being on the show.
my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I think also the main event is probably, I think really at the end of the day, I'm not going to make any predictions. I think we'll be talking about that main event for some time to come,
Mate,
whichever way it goes.
What do you think about the amazing ProCam Studios?
Well, I just wonder, do I get a call back or not? This is fantastic. Well done. You guys have done a brilliant job.
Mate, Third Man's Thoughts is going to be a segment that's going to be on the show regularly. Mate, we'd love to have you on. Thank you for being on.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'm Bangin' Benny Kite, and you are watching Before the Fight.
Hey, I'm Tyrone Tongia, and you're watching Before the Fight.
So before the fight, this has been our first show. Thank you for watching. We're in the amazing ProCam Studios in Brisbane. Get behind us, give us a like, give us a share. Guys, what do you think of the first show?
Awesome.
Excellent, loved it.
This has been Before the Fight.